Kind of chilly in here.
I thought it was during the last meeting. Then it got, then it didn't get hot. Tom, what happened to Khalil's car down there on that street? He'd been having troubles with it.
1 minute.
Could it?
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the council workshop on March 3rd, 2022 at 5:30 PM. If you have any beepers or cell phones, I ask that you turn them off during the meetings. We will begin the discussion tonight with item 1, discussion on street finances and street repair.
The condition of our streets is always a topic, especially this time of year when potholes from our crews and as our crews try to address them. Many of you will receive comments and questions, and staff wanted to provide you with information and help you provide those answers to those who contact you. Also, because of how we're able to do this over YouTube channel and the radio feed to allow other people at home to get the answers as well. So the first question is, how do we finance road repair? Well, we've all heard the comments about how residents pay property taxes, but the roads still need fixed. Road maintenance and repair does not come from property tax. The vast majority of property taxes are placed in the general fund to help pay for police, fire, parks, cemetery, library administration, among others. The primary source of road repair money is from our allocation of road use tax funds from the state of Iowa. Road use tax allocations are based upon population. As Keokuk's population has declined, so has our share of road use tax. Additionally, there's only so much money in the pot, and so what happened this past census, the large metro areas grew a lot, and so there was a population shift to cities, just not rural cities. And so while we still get a ladle from the pot, the ladle is smaller, and we don't get as many ladles. So that has caused a reduction in the road use tax funds. These funds also pay for personnel in the street department and required allocations to snow removal and street cleaning. The city has tried to pay for capital projects and equipment through road use tax instead of borrowing money. This reduces the amount available for road maintenance. Prior to the pandemic, road use tax allocations were significantly higher. Staff had estimated that there would be sufficient excess in funds that once every 3 years, a major road repair project could be completed. When the shutdown occurred, road use tax decreased as not as many people were buying gas. Staff now estimates road use tax will only be sufficient to cover operation expenses and some capital expenses. As part of the general fund changes, the plan is now to borrow $1 million every 3 years to fund a repair project. $1 million will get us certain things, and that's the next question. How much do road repairs cost? There are several ways to repair a road. The most basic is seal coating. This involves patching the pavement and filling in low areas with asphalt, then covering the entire street with an oil seal and rock chips. Last year, the city spent approximately $60,000 on materials to complete 20 blocks. Staff has looked to improve the process so that streets are more level, as the seal coats are not foolproof. For minimal expense, a firm was hired that would grind up the surface and rock where needed and compact the surface. City crews would then apply the chip and seal. The result was a much smoother surface. Seal coat roads, however, are not for high traffic areas. Seal coats the seal coat option is good for standard residential streets that don't get a lot of traffic or large trucks. but certainly it's not good for something like South 7th Street or Blondeau or Concert. An intermediate road repair is mill and fill. This process removes the top layer of asphalt pavement and replaces it with new asphalt. Minimal repairs are made to the road base as only soft spots are firmed up. The road surface is much smoother and holds up better than seal coat. However, it is much more expensive. 3 years ago, the city completed 13 blocks of mill and fill project costing approximately $800,000, including engineering. That works out to $60,000 per block. The best road repair option is complete reconstruction. It is also the most costly. As the name suggests, the street would have all material removed, including the base. Typically, underground utilities in the roadway, which would involve sewer and water, are replaced when the road is open, though the cost of these repairs can be partially or completely paid through other utility funds. During the process, any drainage issues can be resolved to help extend the life of the street. New base is added and then paved. Staff looked into the cost of reconstruction based upon projects completed in other communities, and a rough estimate was $150,000 per block. So you can see that even with $1 million, we're not going to have a huge number of places or a huge number of blocks that we can fix. What we would have is be able to take sections and be able to repair those sections, and then we'd have to wait 3 years for the bonding. And if somebody, I've had a question as to why the $1 million, why once every 3 years. What we're trying to do is we're trying to not to overwhelm the citizens with a higher tax rate, because the bonding is paid through debt service taxes. So if we were to do, say, $5 million or $10 million, that would jump up the property tax quite a bit. The other thing is that because we want to be able to maintain that property tax levy at a constant rate rather than jumping it a lot, is that once you borrow that significant amount of money, yes, you get a lot of roads and a lot more roads and streets repaired. The problem is that you then have to wait for other debt to fall off or debt to be repaid so that you can then put new debt on to fix the roads. So we thought the best approach was $1 million once every 3 years. So the next question is, can we do more work in-house? Over the last 3 years, staff has worked to increase the amount of road maintenance and repair that is completed by city personnel. Seal coating is done by the street crew, and we're purchasing new equipment that will help the process become more efficient and effective. We're also looking to do more crack filling with our personnel. The city does not have equipment or personnel to complete a mill and fill or reconstruction. There are smaller milling machines out there that would do certain patches, but we do not have the money or the justification to buy a milling machine that would do a half a street or one single lane, because that cost, you would want to be able to use that machine not just for the month or so that we'd be working on roads, but you want to be using it from the moment it warms up that you can get out and start doing something to the last day in the fall to where you could do something. So what is our plan moving forward? Again, as part of the discussion of the general fund, we propose borrowing $1 million every 3 years for major road repairs. This would start in fiscal year 24-25 as the bond for the general fund capital project is paid off in fiscal year 23-24. The projects would involve reconstruction through mill and fill or complete reconstruction. Every year, we'll continue to work on seal coating and other maintenance. How do we select streets for the maintenance and repair? Staff will be preparing an inventory of streets and their conditions. The worst streets may not be the first ones to receive attention, as resources should be used to protect failing streets from worsening. Any plan will be reviewed by the council before implementation. Then I ask if the council has any questions or any comments. We all know that this is a hot topic and has been a hot topic, I know, since the moment I was hired. I will tell you that during the interview process, I was given a tour of town, and they did not skip certain areas. And immediately, one of the first comments that my wife and I had said was, "Streets are kind of bad in this town." So
Cole, we discussed that the repair of roads comes from road use tax funds, and that there's an algorithm that the state comes up with to distribute that money to communities like us. But could you explain where road use tax comes from? Like, where are they actually using that, like our citizens and us?
Okay, so what it is every time you fill up with gas, you pay a state tax.
Mhm.
That all goes into a big pot in Des Moines, and that's how the state funds their road repairs. But the Iowa Constitution, when they established the road use tax, said that a certain amount of money must go to counties and must go to local governments based upon, I don't know how the county is done, if it's done on population or if it's done on a different formula, but for cities, it's based upon population. Our population dropped, and so again, we receive fewer ladles, and the ladle is smaller.
Right. So again, from the pump, though, from
Correct.
you going to our gas pumps in Iowa, is very, very important, because I do see a lot of misinformation out there where people in our tri-state area would maybe go over to Illinois or to Missouri to pump their gas because it's cheaper. But just remember, when you do that, that money isn't coming back to us and isn't coming back to Iowa, isn't coming back and being put into that algorithm to get us our money. So with what I'm saying, though, is just because you're at the pump in Keokuk doesn't give the money back to Keokuk, even though that would be amazing. It doesn't actually work that way. But I just wanted to be clear. And doesn't it come from titles and registry? Am I in there? Some kind of-
I believe that there was a change about 7, 8 years back, maybe 10 years back, where they did make it a change to the titles and registrations, so that it now becomes based upon tonnage rather than how old your car is. There is a factor of how old the car is. So, for example, I have an older vehicle. The annual registration is $50. My newer vehicles are higher, and then it's also based upon its vehicle weight. So a pickup truck built in 2016 is going to have a higher registration fee than a sedan built in 2016. They might be the same age, but because of the tonnage, they're going to be bigger. And then a portion of that increase that they made does go to road use tax as well.
Into the algorithm. Okay.
And Missouri, well, every state has a road gas tax.
Mhm.
Different states handle it differently. I can tell you that in Illinois, that it's not guaranteed by the Constitution. During my time in Illinois, there was several times where the Illinois state budget was a little out of whack, which was just about every year. And at times, what they do is they would sweep or take back the road money to use in their operation budget.
Thank you for explaining it to us.
Well, the last time you said the $1 million done 13 blocks, is that,
The $1 million did approximately 13 blocks of mill and fill. Yes,
okay, and the second paragraph here, how do we finance?
yes.
And it says equipment. So what equipment, the road use tax?
What equipment does it pay for?
Right.
So the snow plows, the new chipper box, which lays down the chips for the seal coat, pickup trucks that are necessary for the street department. The street sweeper will be paid with road use tax. If there's an end loader that's necessary or another piece of heavy equipment that the street department primarily uses, it comes out of road use tax.
So if you didn't have to buy equipment, you could have more money for roads.
Well, what I'll tell you is that that would be the case if we were spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on equipment each year. But after next fiscal year, we don't have another large piece of equipment in the budget or in the CIP for several years, but we're still going to struggle to just meet operations because of the cuts in revenue. What we also did as part of the general fund this year is um, uh, the state allows you now to levy for the cost of benefits of street department personnel through the employee benefit levy. So we are gradually moving that over to the benefit levy so that we have more road use tax to be able to meet our operational costs and capital equipment costs. On the converse side, in the upcoming fiscal year, we are shifting a portion of the cost of street lighting into the road use tax fund, which then takes away from the ability to meet operations and capital purchases. That was agreed to for a 1 year to see how things work out. And the council at next year's budget discussion will have to decide to either leave it or move it back to the general fund.
Cole, do you know, we had talked about 18th Street to the National Cemetery possibly being some grant funds and stuff there, since that is a direct route to our National Cemetery. Is that still a possibility?
What I will say is, you know, because that's another question, and that's a good question to ask about the possibility of grants. There are grants available out there. Southeast Iowa Regional Planning and every regional planning organization receives federal dollars each year that they can then distribute. In some of the regional planning areas, what they do is they say each city gets X amount based upon their population. And then you can bank that up and then do a larger project type of thing. Southeast Iowa Regional Planning does it differently. What they do is they say, here's the money. If you have a project, fill out an application for the grant, and then it's a competitive grant. The competitive grants are only available for a certain classification of roadway. So it has to be something that is a main arterial that has a lot of traffic on it. You can do collectors as part of, portions of the collectors as part of doing that main arterial. 18th Street, while it is the main and direct way to get to the National Cemetery, it is not classified as a main arterial. So we're unable to apply for grants. As you know, Senator Reichman has taken up this cause to try to find a way to get some money. He contacted me and asked if we would be interested in possibly participating in a experimental program that Iowa State has on it's a more environmentally friendly asphalt, I believe, right? I said, oh, most certainly, but I haven't heard anything back from him yet.
I will tell you too that today I went to the National Cemetery and spoke with the gentleman that's in charge out there and got some names of people that can be called to guide us in the right direction, because it is a road that leads up there to the National Cemetery. We also need to remember it's the only national cemetery in Iowa, and it's the first one that was built this side of the Mississippi. So we need to kind of look at that and use those things as maybe history too. I also have a number to call next week, to a lobbyist that is in Des Moines that may help us with some ideas. Also, I did see a couple weeks ago when I was looking that Amazon had a program that gave grants for for ideas for heroes. And I can't think that there could be any more heroes in any place but our national cemetery. So there are things going on from the city too, as well as Mr. Reichman. And I was going to call him. I would like to see the governor and talk with the governor, even though I realize that those monies aren't used for city streets. However, is there an exception because it is the street up to the only national cemetery? So we need to look at that. And I don't think Joe Biden's got too much on his mind, so he probably doesn't want to see me, but if we could go as far as we can go, that's what we have to do to find that money.
Also, this might be a question for Robert to answer. I've had citizens contact me about why are we going to resurface the roads down at the riverfront, down to the boat ramps. And I've tried to explain to them that if we don't use that money, we won't be eligible for any federal funds should a flood happen again. Is that correct?
Yeah, I can answer that because it's pretty simple, is that's part of, it was, the reason why we're resurfacing it is because it was damaged during the flood of 2018 and we're receiving money from FEMA. And if we do not do the project, as you stated, if we do not do the project, then if when the next flood comes, if there's further damage to the roadway, FEMA will not give us any money for the road repair. So it wasn't that we're choosing to do that because that's where we thought the money should go. We're choosing to do that because it's necessary in order to receive any additional disaster aid in the future.
Cole, I just want to put South 18th Street into perspective now in regards to doing the bond for the $1 million a few years from now. So according to the numbers that you gave us and looking at the map, it looks like that's approximately 8 blocks. So if we were to do the mill and fill, which is just the intermediate fix, approximately $480,000. Or if we were to do the reconstruction, we're at $1.2 million just to fix that one road. So just to kind of put that all in perspective,
Sure.
what we're talking about here. With these different versions of road repair, what's the average life expectancy difference between them?
Well, I can say that, like with the seal coat, depending upon the traffic and how well, you smooth things out and what the sub base is, it could be 2, 3, 5, could be 10 years, right? It all depends on some of that undering. But when you do seal coat, you're not taking care of any of that underlying issues, so that certainly it could be 2 years because things pop up. A mill and fill, you can look at up to 10, 12 years on a mill and fill. What happens with that is, again, you're not addressing some of the underlying issues. And what you'll see is radial cracking, meaning that the reason why you had a crack there before was, and it still didn't take care of underneath, it'll come back up. But if you do crack filling and regular maintenance, you can extend the lifetime of that road. With a reconstruction, you're looking at 20 to 25 years, probably 30 years of good road surface with proper maintenance. And again, it's also going to depend upon the surface and how well you install the drainage. If you do it perfectly and you put in and I'll say a concrete surface, you can get 30 to 40 years out of that roadway. And asphalt is more subject to the heating and cooling, which causes the cracking. And so the lifetime of an asphalt road is a little less.
So the upfront cost on that reconstruction is obviously the highest, but if you look at the cost over the life expectancy, it actually ends up being more economical. But the issue is we just don't have that upfront cost available.
Correct.
Key to all of it, Mike, is maintenance. Fall apart. I'm not saying the base was great, they were an overlay, but when you don't seal asphalt, it will enter that the sun and the freezing fall will heat that nature pieces. Concrete is the same way. We have to start filling the joints in the concrete. If you look at South Step, see it's very small, that's because the state has failed to keep the cracks filled up. So no matter which way we go, the key here is keeping our money for our maintenance. No maintenance, doesn't matter which way you go, you're still not going to get a nice one. Or a good quality.
Any other comments?
I was just going to say that though I would like Senator Reichman and to do an experimental project, and it would be zero money. I think that's amazing. I'm a little weary of doing anything experimental. I'd like to know before we move forward for like taking a free handout of making sure the data and the science proves that this is not something we're gonna have to come back to in 10 years in the same problem. So that was just my only.
I wholeheartedly agree, and that before we agreed to be part of it, I'm sure that they would give a thorough and complete presentation to the council for their consideration.
Any other comments? Anybody? Just a short note on all this. We hit on it at the beginning. Everybody that throws their census papers in the trash or says, I'm not going to do this because I don't have time, or I don't want everybody to see my information out there, or I don't think it's all that important. It's extremely important because the more citizens that fill out, the more people that we claim as our citizens and we see here, we get more benefits for our town. So if you know somebody that says that to you, don't fill out your census. They're only hurting our town and themselves. So anyway.
And we don't have a prison to count the population of.
That's absolutely right. I worked the 2020 census, and you would be surprised how many people turned me away at the door because they thought the government was going to be evasive and use their information. And I tried to explain that we get so many dollars per head. I think it was like $93 per head that they count in the census. And without that, the town individually and as a whole loses money.
So I think we'll move on to, on the agenda, to the second item, and it is review the council meeting and agenda.
Are there any questions on the agenda as far as tonight? I believe there's the bonding, a public hearing on the bonds, setting the public hearing for the budget. I don't have the agenda in front of me. Got it? Any questions on the ordinance on the UTVs and golf carts?
Has anything changed on that since our last discussion?
I think Pam said that the only thing that changed was the sunset date to March 31st.
And the flag.
Oh, and the flag.
To the triangle, yeah.
Yep.
Yep. And then again, the only other thing is any questions on the granting of the franchise to ITC? And then we're setting the public hearing on the budget. Anything else?
Okay, then we will adjourn till 6:30 when we will come back and do the city council meeting.
Who's that lady you were with the other day?
Yeah. So just. So that's all I.
So back in the day, Grand Avenue, and his practice was in, remember him, he was in Doc Williamson. They lived like Grand Avenue, 1900 block of Riverside, and his practice was in Myers Courtyard up on the top floor.
Okay, yeah. She didn't say they
Like
got
maybe a
relatives, but
child.
yeah. She's pretty, I don't know how old she was. We were walking back down
I thought kind of looked like Pat Modi's
Yes,
step.
yes, right.
You know, I couldn't, I'm terrible at ages.
I am too older, I get the less I can.
Terrible. I mean, you know, these 18-year-olds look like they're 13 to me, you know. It's like when you see them on the news about something, it's like there's no way.
I was watching Stuart Russell.
What year was it that Foley was in?
And I
We resurfaced that.
was watching Stuart Russell.
Somewhere right in there.
Oh, damn it.
Around that time, they had a
I told
complaint
myself
that
today I
the
needed to order
sealer
those,
truck
what do you call those stickers
Oh,
for
yeah.
UTV. I was
They
gonna
got
show
parked in the
Nancy,
weeds.
yeah.
up until just
They
a
make
few
them
years
reflective ones, so
ago,
we'll be able to see them.
I said
I
either,
like the license.
either seal them or quit fixing.
Oh, you get it.
Seal
I
them.
think that's
That
where
tells you how
I
many
looked
years
at them and
them
they had
them
streets.
And it used to be when I was a kid, because I grew up in this town, they would go around and they would blow the cracks out in the concrete and reseal the joints in the concrete. They inspect the joints. Right. Right. Arlington was doing it last summer when I was up there. Yep. They had a tank when you needed it,
Really
would come out
say,
with
she
a
just
wand,
said
and you
that she
could
had
actually lay
some
right in it with the
business
wand.
ideas. And she was just kind of looking for some building. Those, I mean, I hope somebody ends up, she looked at all of them.
Is there an incentive on that one too?
They were still doing it manually, but they dusted up there.
Regional planning,
But that,
where recently, there was.
if we don't start doing that, we're gonna keep chasing our tail on these damn streets. You have to.
I think we applied for $1 million and 150 of that goes to that building 620. The rest of them, they would look at 620. Because it was the building face, you know, the building that was torn down 629, so that's still what we consider 629. I mean, it's, you can change it, of course, but.
Mark and I had a few arguments
But if somebody wants
over,
to build-
he told me point blank that asphalt's supposed to be permeable. I said that,
They built something that wasn't attached.
Yeah, exactly, definitely, it'll definitely need to change.
Oh.
You know what? I have to tell you guys a funny story, and this is not about the chair. I'm just like a little kid. I keep freaking sit still. I just can't sit still.
We
I'm
all
just
gotta be even height.
Yeah. So.
Tom, you better lift yours up a little bit. Be even with him.
I've told you the story about just being like a little kid.
Yep,
About
RLS.
Dennis Hines' funeral. So.
Is he your old neighbor? out
Yes,
there?
he's
Yeah.
our neighbor. So we went, to his funeral. Of course, we're sitting like halfway back. It was so full, and there was, the whole funeral home, and that one part was full, and then there was more people on the other side, and Lynette and Corey Baker, and those guys were. I couldn't see them. Thank God.
If you're fidgety.
Well, his nephew came out in this Elvis outfit. It was white, and big old silver gold, buckle. That wasn't, I didn't lose my cool at that point, but he starts singing, and it was freaking the most horrendous thing I've ever heard in my life. And sometimes when you just can't help yourself,
Oh,
you
yeah,
just
I've been
lose
there.
it. So I'm down like this.
Acting like you're crying.
Yes, I'm laughing so hard, I'm shaking. And that says she's over there, and she's just looking forward. She's like, I can't look at anybody again. She can't even see the guy. So I'm freaking. We get out into the truck. I just can't wait to get out of there. And Terry's like, he's like, I wanted to drag you out of there. I couldn't help it. It was
Hey, there's a song that says something about she's the giggle at a funeral, like when you do stuff at like a weird time.
Yeah, that was me.
Maybe inappropriate feeling time.
I'm terrible at funerals. My stepdad, here's another one, my stepdad, he was a card. I don't even want to tell you about mine. So when he passed away, he was like 62 when he passed away. And they had his freaking funeral. There's this old Indian, I think it's in there, old back in Swing Home in back in the Revere area.
Yeah.
These standing caregivers, they come to the funeral. So they're doing all this freaking chanting and this freaking smoke shit. And me and Eli are standing Well, they know about Dennis's funeral. Oh my God. Yeah, I'm like that sucker.
I'd like to call to order the City Council meeting, March 3rd, 2022, 501 Main Street, Keokuk, Iowa, 6:30 PM. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Are we ready, guys? Here we go. Item number 3, roll call.
Crenshaw,
Here.
Alteid, Garcia.
Here.
Wynn, Hellenthal.
Here.
Andrews.
Here.
Marsden.
Here.
Bryant,
Here.
Greenwald,
Here.
8 present, 1 absent.
Item number 4 is mayor's correspondence. I would like to invite everybody to check the public library for all the March events for all the different ages of people. There's a lot there going on there, and I encourage you to use their facilities. Congratulations to Jenny Henson, Steve Mask, Robert Korshigan, and Ann and Chuck Peitzer for winning the Spirit of Keokuk Awards. They were all great choices, and they were very well deserved. Great things are coming to Keokuk. The dog park, the Keokuk Parks Foundation is ready to begin putting the fence up when the weather gets better and the ground is open. There's going to be new play equipment down at Victory Park by where Rolling on the River sets up. The walking trails at the riverfront are in the process of being finalized. Road work on the riverfront from FEMA so that you will be driving on a better street from Georgia and Verity down to the wastewater treatment. The splash pad at Tomey Park that was donated by K-Play. These are all great things that are coming our way that they were all funded by donations and grants. They're not from your tax dollars, and they are all hard work for a lot of citizens in our town. These are great projects to donate to, either your time or your money or your talents, and that's all tax deductible too. So number 4, the Historic Preservation Commission will soon be up and running again, and that could bring us some monies for our history in our town and our historical buildings, and also will help us to know the history of our town and our city and how we got to be Keokuk. And last but not least, we need to eat, drink, and shop local. St. Patrick's Day is just around the corner, so make sure you celebrate in Keokuk. If anybody has their beepers or the cell phones on, I ask that you turn them off as usual. We're going to move to item number 5, which is citizens' request. And I would like to ask that you come to the microphone if you would like to speak, state your name and your address. And also, if there's a lot of people that begin to speak, we might need to keep it a little brief and not totally repeat all the time, but just make sure that you come to the microphone, state your name so we know who you are, and we need to do this all in a timely and kind manner.
My name's Josh Leggett. I live 1503 Palin Street, Keokuk, Iowa. This is my wife, Leanne. Is it okay to hand these pamphlets out to you? Or? Okay. Thank you. Okay, so I'm here tonight because of a phone call I received Tuesday telling me my headstone that I built for my dad, James Leggett, would be removed from Oakland Cemetery. Now, my dad was a Keokuk native. He was a U.S. Navy vet and spent his adult life as a roughneck on oil rigs in Texas, Alaska, North Dakota. He passed away August 6, 2019. His funeral and burial were Thursday, August 15th, 2019. Shortly after, I contacted Bob Weiss with the cemetery supervisor about my plans for his headstone. Followed by a meeting with him and Nick Seabolt, I showed my blueprint and was given the all clear to go ahead and build. I have included my blueprint and pictures of the foundation. And to my understanding, there are two concerns. One, it's too tall, and the other one, it's not traditional. Not only is this monument not the tallest, it's not the most unique in Oakland Cemetery. Angela Gates at the Keokuk Library has done extensive research on interesting and unusual markers in Keokuk's Oakland Cemetery. In fact, here's a book right here. According to the rules and regulations pamphlet for Oakland Cemetery, it states it's important that care be taken in selecting a monument and it not be repetitive of other stones in the cemetery. And it is desirable, not required, that you consult with the cemetery supervisor. It also is stated in the city ordinance concerning Keokuk Cemetery, dated 1851, that the proprietor of each lot shall erect any proper stone or monument within the line of the lot. So my questions to you are today, why am I here? What rules are we breaking here? What and who defines traditional in the rules? And what defines how tall or small a monument can be? How many approvals has the cemetery supervisor made while acting as an agent for the city? What kind of documents do other companies, such as Harrison Monuments, have to provide to set a monument in the Oakland Cemetery? And also, what does the future look like for the people wanting to do similar things for their loved ones?
If I can start. Okay. First of all, I want to give a little bit of background in that Robert and I did not become aware of this monument until it was in place. Robert and I had multiple discussions Monday, Tuesday on how to proceed in that this is a non-traditional monument. And you can agree this is non-traditional, okay? And through our research, we had some conflicting information on how permission may have been given or may not have been given. And at that time, what we, Robert and I agreed is that we would let it be unless members of the council wanted to discuss the issue. We had one member request to discuss the issue. That's why we gave Mr. Leggett a call and said, this will be discussed at tonight's meeting. So that's the background from staff. We're asking the council to make the decision because, again, staff had made our decision and that we would just let it be because of the some of the confusion as to was there permission or not permission given. Again, conflicting stories. And if, again, allowing the council to make the decision, not staff, that way it's you have the justification however you want. That, and that's where we're at, so.
For clarity, though, they were told Tuesday that they could keep it.
It was last Friday. We was okay. It started last week on I believe Wednesday. Robert called me and said, hey, look, you're kind of under the gun here. And then he's going to see what he can do. I said, look, I got a blueprint I submitted. And he said, bring that down. So I did first thing in the morning. I had a meeting with Robert and he got back with me later that day. Said, look, this thing's squashed. It's good to go. You're fine. We left it at that. Now come Tuesday, totally
This
different.
week, Tuesday.
Tuesday, you were told you were going to take
This
it down,
week.
or just that there would be discussion?
We're back on the chopping block, yes. And
That's what
then-
you were told,
And then, you better have your ducks in a row. You know, that's what I was told.
Okay.
So,
But
I just wanted for clarity
Sure.
to know.
staff never told them, staff never said that it was going to be removed. What we said was it would be discussed at tonight's meeting, is what we told it. And that the council would decide the one way or the other if the monument should stay or not.
Josh,
When was you originally given permission to build this monument, and by whom?
so it was, in August of 2019, when I had a discussion with Bob Weiss. And I believe it was, Mark Buzalo at the time that he got a hold of, and as far as I know, it was good to go. All verbal, nothing on paper. So. And I just, I wouldn't have dedicated 2 years of my life to building this thing and the thousands of dollars that I got wrapped up in it if I didn't feel that
Josh?
I was wrong here.
Did I hear you say that last Tuesday you was told it was a go?
Last Friday,
Last Friday.
That's Friday.
yes.
And then when I recontacted him, it was because of conversations that I'd had from citizens and with council people. And so I notified him that it was going to go to the council for their approval, and that the council can override any decisions that I make.
That was after it was already up though.
Yes.
Right.
All discussions have been since it's already up. I've had no knowledge of any prior agreements for any work being done.
And my question is, we have two more John Leggett's and the McGackey one in this, out there. And are they written agreements? Do you have written agreements with them
I
people?
can find no record of it. If somebody has it,
Okay, the John Leggett one, I did that one also, and I dealt with Gary Stepp at the time with that.
Uh-huh.
And same thing, blueprints. This is not my first go around on this, you know.
But did you have something in writing on that from the city, or just it was all verbal? Everything was verbal?
Just the same thing. I submitted a blueprint, took a few days later, I got the okay, and away we went, you know.
So you
And-
went through
and-
the
and in
same,
all- go
you
ahead.
went through the same channels on this one that you did prior to that, and that's why you assumed it should be a go without the written and all that.
Exactly, yes. I didn't do anything different except for the
Correct.
names have changed, of course. And also, I started in August, I started the paperwork thing, and then I dug the footings in October. So you could see where I steadily was, you know, chipping at the block here.
What I will say is, one of his questions was, what about moving forward? Well, moving forward, we are going to have a more thorough process on approving plans and specifications that also include something in writing that can be documented. So that is one of the things coming out that will be coming out of this. But the topic at hand still is the current monument.
I personally went to Harrison Monuments in Warsaw. They set all kinds of stones out there, and they have to do zero. They don't have to do nothing to set a stone out there. They call and you guys mark it for them, they said, and past that, they don't have to do. No paper trail.
that is part of the process that was being put in place long before this incident here came about. There will not be, unless the council directs me in any other way, there will not be any stones, structures, any alterations in the open cemetery without city approval. And it won't be personnel that work at the cemetery, or it won't be the manager who'll come from City Hall.
Robert, you've been here before on some of the decorations that I've put on other graves. Does this in any way impede your way of maintaining the cemetery?
That was the concern with Nick Siebel and the Bob Weiss was putting stuff out in the aisleway, and we need to take into consideration with the lawnmowers and stuff, and all that has been thought through and meticulously made to where none of that would be impeding into your
This
area.
here is replica of an oil drilling rig?
Yes, a scaled down version of the first rig he was on, yes.
Josh,
Yes.
could you explain to council, it must be like 5, just
Yes.
about like, maybe like the weight, you mentioned it, earlier that, the 2 issues that were brought up to you that people might not like the way it looks, but then also, how it's there. Could you go into like how much this supports and things like that for us?
I'm sure what you're looking at is the foundation.
Okay.
And there's another photo of me standing in the hole.
Yeah.
I'm 5'11".
Yeah.
You can do the math.
Okay.
Your house only goes 3 feet in the ground with the footing.
Perfect. Okay.
We're way deeper than that.
Good.
And this weighs nowhere near.
So to the best of your knowledge, this will be able to stand forever,
A
right?
tornado or whatever.
Okay,
yes,
I just want to be
guaranteed.
very clear so that everybody knew. Okay,
I used a 4,000 pound cement. That's per square inch, 4,000 pounds.
Okay.
So
okay.
Josh, I'd like to touch on that and help the council out with that question myself. I don't currently have weld certificates, but I've had government weld certificates. When I found out about this, that was one concern that I thought I better address. I went out and looked at the structure, looked at what it was made out of, looked how it was constructed. It'll be there when other stones are laying over. I'll just put it that way. It was done very nice, very neat. It is structurally sound. That was a concern that I'd heard from other people on it. So with that aspect of it, I'm gonna leave it up to the rest of the council too. I think, in my opinion, that you did what you'd done before and it wasn't an issue before. So I understand why you felt that this was going to be the same way. I know we've been talking quite a bit in the last 6-8 months about changing things in the cemetery because we had other issues. This was started before that. This kind of fell through. Had we had this brought to us, we could have hashed all this out and gave you the green light or said, hey, this needs to be changed long before we ever got here.
sure.
But in my situation and with it already being constructed, with it being constructed to the specs that it's built to, I see no danger of it falling over, deteriorating. My only concern to you would be, I hate to see it get vandalized. I hope it don't. But I also hope people don't climb on it and fall and get hurt, and then they want to come after you or us. But that can also happen with any other stone out there. So that's my piece.
I appreciate it.
I've had calls on it, for and against it, that people thought that it was too tall, too out of place. But my answer to them is, what is art? What is a monument?
Sure.
What I like might not be something that you like.
Exactly. That's what makes everybody different.
So, for us to say that you've got to remove it because of how it looks to somebody else, that's not a valid reason, in my opinion.
Right. And it's
Well,
exactly the same height as the Veteran Memorial. It's just as soon as you go in, the very first thing you see is the Veteran Memorial Wall is exactly the same height as that.
And I kind of agree with Robert. It's there. It's been approved. We don't know, how it got approved or through the channels that things kind of fell through the cracks, but it's there. You got the approval to do it. So
Right.
it doesn't make any difference whether I like it or not.
Right.
Josh,
Yes.
I noticed there's a little movement, you have it bolted down, I think anchored with 4 bolts, 2 on each end.
There's 2 on each end. Yes. Anchor bolts. They're
Yeah.
3/4 inch stainless
But there's a
steel.
little movement.
Yes.
Is that a concern?
Yes, it was. And I'm going to add a few more anchor bolts to the
Or
base plates,
maybe.
just for that. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I discussed that with the C-bolt. We was just looking for a little better weather.
And then the flag on top,
Yep.
is it going going to have a light on it?
What's that?
Is it going to have a light on it?
Light? You betcha.
Okay.
You bet.
So then what I'm going to tell you is that we will not be responsible for replacing the flag. So,
Sure.
if the flag becomes,
And I took that in
ratty,
highly
torn.
consideration, and I bought these, it's a tangle-free mounting bracket, so that thing can spin 360 degrees, never touch nothing. That was kind of a stickler on that too, so.
I think it's the timing and nothing on anyone's fault. Obviously, we have been talking about this for about a year, about how to clean up the cemetery of things that are hindering maintenance, mowing, things like that. So I'm sure it was a shock when you go out there and that's what's there.
Sure.
Not in a bad way,
No, I get
nobody
it.
knew about this.
Right.
And when we're saying the city, it's not people who are sitting here today who have approved it. So I think that's where the confusion lies. I was told that you were given the yes, but I saw people comparing it to mausoleums, stones, things like that. I think we can agree that those places are for cemeteries. And this is nothing against your headstone. I'm saying I think we need to have these channels where people ask for approval because everyone's not going to put the work in that you did. They're going
Right.
to take a tire out there because their dad was a mechanic.
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah,
things like
no,
that will happen. That's what this door opens, which is why I think the city must be stricter on the approvals and making sure people do the blueprints and do the work.
Right, I agree.
I also, and this has already been done, and so this really isn't in reference to what you've done, but I also encourage anybody that's going to do that, and we're going to set those rules, and we do have rules. We do have rules, and maybe they weren't followed. I would also encourage anybody, because we are looking at August 25th, 1851, and there are more current codes than this
Right.
that have been written since then. So I'm not saying that this is right or wrong. I'm not saying that you looked at this right or wrong. I'm just saying that there are current codes that override a lot of this. And we also have a book about the cemetery that overrides a lot of this because this is 1851. I'm just letting
Right.
anybody out there know
And
that
I've got that book.
there's
and
difference.
There's still no
Well-
height restrictions.
And I understand that. I'm not saying anything specific. I'm
Right.
just saying that going on August 25th, 1851, there is more current codes, municipal codes, and rules and regulations that if anybody chooses to do anything like that, do anything like this again, that's where they need to look now.
Sure.
I'm just saying that's a long time ago.
Also like to reference that Mayor Mahoney, the book that she just referenced and that you guys have, and that I know that is handed out to people who buy burial plots with Keika is also on the website. So just to let everybody know that you can also find it there in digital form too. So
I would also like to encourage anybody, and if this ever goes and forward at all in anything, that it's, at this present time, it can be a he said, she said thing, and I'm not saying anybody is right or wrong. I'm not saying anybody did anything wrong. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying that without a paper trail, it's very confusing. And so I'm hoping that when we move forward, it will all come through City Hall, and it will come through Robert, and it will be a paper trail. That way, that's part of what's going on here is there's confusion because we have a lack of a paper trail.
I agree. It's
And-
negligent on both parts for
and
such things.
I don't
yes.
even know if it's negligence. It's just that we live in a small town and we assume that we can function that way until the problem happens. And that's where we are now.
Right.
So I encourage anybody that, as we're moving forward, not to just think that they
And
don't
that's
need.
why I went to Harrison Monuments. I wanted to know what makes them different than me.
Yes, and I understand
absolutely,
that.
there's nothing, so.
And I understand that.
Sure.
I understand that. I'm just trying to make people understand that that's why we're at where we're at. Is because we need to look at the present codes and the present rules and have a paper trail.
We need to update our employees on that. but I think we have a gentleman here that done his due diligence and didn't do anything underhanded and done something to try to respect his dad. So I have no, it isn't impeding anything in the cemetery, so I have no problem with it.
So staff's question to council is do you want anything further on this or any formal action? Otherwise, we'll move on.
Have we reached out and talked to Mr. Weiss about this? Does he recollect this? The same has been presented?
Let me tell you that what Mr. Leggett relayed tonight, and that they had a meeting out at the cemetery, and that during that meeting, it was our cemetery employee, Bob, and Mr. Leggett. Mark Buslow was supposed to be there at the time during the meeting. Bob received a phone call. It was Mark on the phone, and when they got done, came back, told Mr. Leggett, go ahead. That was the version that Mr. Leggett gave, our cemetery employee gave, and Bob gave, all independently.
Thank you.
Is there, most of the people here tonight for this monument, because we represent you? Okay. Okay, because this city council and this staff works for you. So we want to know your opinions on this and go and move forward with it.
So if anybody else got something to say, now's the time, right? Is what you're saying?
It's constructed out of stainless steel, isn't it, Josh?
Yes, all stainless steel, yes.
So it's gotta be there.
And in fact, my friend helped me do this, and you guys, the city has hired us to do other monuments in town. At Victory Park, say, for instance.
Park.
Or Rand Park. The same people.
When you talk about vandalism with the headstones, there's been a lot of vandalism out there, a lot of really old ones. It's gonna be really hard to vandalize this. Plasma's gonna have to be.
I think Councilmember Marsden had a question.
I was just in reference to Councilman Nguyen, when he's asking about everybody that here, I would, if there is anybody here that is here in opposition of this, I would like to give them a forum to give them a voice, just like we gave everybody a voice. I would just, if there is, I mean, I'm quite the crowd, so I don't know if there is, but if there was, I would like to give them the opportunity for that too, so that there are two sides to that, if they would like.
And we're all about difference. Oh, I mean, I understand it's not everybody's cup of tea, so.
Any more discussion, guys? I think that we have to understand that we are thankful for everybody that does support everybody, and we're glad that you're all here. But this isn't a voting situation where we take from the crowd a vote. So just so you understand that, I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you're supporting them. And your voices are heard, but that's not what happens this way. And so just so you understand, it's the council that makes the decision here, and I just didn't want to lead anybody astray. I just wanted it to be understood, and I don't know that are we going to vote tonight, or we're not voting tonight, we're just going.
It's just that if the council wanted to do any formal action, and I think that the consensus I got was that leave well enough alone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, so each of you received a letter that was opposed. So
Letter and email both.
letter and an email both. We'll put them in the record. I don't think we need to read them into the record, but there were voices in opposition. Yeah, and then All of you have received phone calls, I'm sure, so.
Are there any other citizens' requests?
We're letting it be. We're letting it be.
I can see in the future, since it's there to be there, but in the future, if they have to go through the channels and have a paper trail and stuff, then that can be decided by the council.
Correct.
I feel it was a very fitting, monument to this guy.
Okay, we're going to move on in the meeting, so we're going to the consent agenda.
I will say to the council, there will be a document drawn up on this, so somebody 10 years from now can't come back and wonder why this was approved, why it was there. That will be in place, and Mr. Leggett will also receive a copy of that.
Okay, here we go. Item number 6 on the agenda is the consent agenda. Minutes of the council workshop and regular city council meeting of February 17th, 2022. Resolution approving a liquor license for L Trains, 1108 Main Street, effective March 15, 2022. Class C liquor license with outdoor service, pending DRAM. Resolution approving a liquor license for Site Food Mart, 1301 Main Street, effective March 21st, 2022. Class E liquor license, Class C beer permit, Class B wine permit, and Sunday sales. Resolution approving a change in the ownership of Hy-Vee Incorporated liquor license, and a motion to pay the bills and transfers listed in registers number 5258 through 5259. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda, including the consent agenda?
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Old business. Do we have a motion to remove from the table a resolution accepting the annual financial audit report from Anderson, Larkin, and Company for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So now we have to go to the original motion.
Is there any questions on the audit or any comments?
Do we have a motion to approve?
It's already, that's
Okay.
tabled, so.
Let's take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? New business, item number 8. Now is the time and place for the public hearing for authorization of a loan agreement and issuance of not to exceed 2 million general fund obligation capital loan notes of the city of Keokuk, state of Iowa, for essential corporate purposes. A public hearing notice was published in the Daily Gate City on Thursday, February 24th, 2022. I am opening the public hearing at 7:03. Do I have any comments?
The Water Pollution Control Belt Press project will be financed with alternate revenue general obligation bonds. The issuance will be $2 million. While it's general obligation, sewer revenue will pay the bonds. The issuance is $2 million. Prior to beginning the process for sale of bonds, a public hearing must be held. The bonds are expected to be sold in August, but the timeline can be moved forward if rates start to climb. The hearing is being held now, so the debt can be included as part of the fiscal year 22-23 budget. And again, it says general obligation, alternate revenue. We're paying for it with sewer funds by backing it with the full faith and credit on a general obligation bond. We get a better interest rate.
Any further discussion? City Clerk, were there any written comments or objections?
None.
There will be no further comments or objections on this matter. I will close the public hearing at 7:04. We will then consider the resolution instituting the proceedings to take additional action for the issuance of a not to exceed $2 million general obligation capital loan notes. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Consider the resolution authorizing the issuance of a general obligation capital loan note series 2022 and levying a tax for the payment thereafter. Motion to approve?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Number 9, motion to approve the initial reading of an ordinance adding new chapter 9.90 regarding operation of off-road utility vehicles and golf carts. Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call.
Crenshaw,
I'm sorry, what? Are we voting?
Yes.
Did you
Do you want to, do we have any discussion on it?
No.
Okay.
in your vote?
Roll call.
Yes.
Garcia,
Aye.
Wynn, Hohenthal,
Aye.
Andrews,
Aye.
Marsden,
Aye.
Bryant,
Aye.
Greenwald,
Aye.
With that being approved, is there any motion to waive the second and third reading of this ordinance?
I really have a hard time with that. This is not the place for discussion time. Okay.
There was a second?
Is there a second?
Is there a second?
Is there a second? So there not being a second, we will,
Motion fails.
motion has failed and there will be no roll call. Item number 10, consider,
Just for reference for out there. So at the next meeting, we'll have the second reading, and then the meeting after that, we'll have the third reading. So it'd be the first meeting in April when it becomes final.
okay,
Should be able to get it to you at the end of the month, but we want one more reading in case there's anybody comes up. I don't believe there will, but we'd like to read one more time.
agenda item number 10, consider resolution setting public hearing on the proposed granting of a franchise to operate an electric transmission utility within the city of Keokuk, Iowa. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
ITC Midwest has transmission lines within the Keokuk corporate limits. ITC has previously operated under the Alliant Energy franchise and was grandfathered in. When council passed the revised franchise with Alliant, ITC lost its grandfather status. The new franchise agreement with ITC is specifically is needed. Prior to considering the ordinance, a public hearing must be held, and staff recommends March 17th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Agenda item 11, consider resolution setting a public hearing on the FY 2022-2023 annual budget. Motion to approve.
So move. Second.
Any discussion?
The preliminary budget is ready. Prior to adoption by the city council, a public hearing must be held, and staff recommends March 17th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m.
There are council members who have questions, and I'm not sure that a meeting about them could be held before March 17th. Is there a way we could move it to that first one in April?
No, it has to be approved, that we have to certify the budget by March 31st.
So if this doesn't work, we need to do like a special meeting.
Well, what I would ask, if you have questions, if you could forward them to me. Do you have questions tonight? I mean, what questions do
No,
you
I'm
have?
saying there are council members who have reached out that have questions. I'm just saying,
Well, if you have questions, try to get them to me and I'll answer them. I plan on doing a presentation during the workshop
okay.
on the 17th. But if there's any questions before then, they're not, I don't think there's been any significant changes to anything since the last draft version. And so the version that I sent out last week, like I said, I can't think if there was a change. So
At that meeting, at the workshop, would there be a chance to change anything at that time before that?
We can change expenditures and the tax levy down, but we cannot go up.
Any more discussion? Did I have a second on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Agenda item number 12, boards and commissions.
Rand Park Pavilion Commission, second notification, no vote required. Joyce Park Tumulty Commission, second notification, no vote required. Board of Adjustment, second notification, no vote required. Veterans Memorial Commission, first notification, no vote required. Mayoral appointments, Historic Preservation Commission, vote required, 3-year terms, Richard West and Donna Peeler, both terms to expire 9/1/2025. So I do need a motion on those two.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Item number 13, staff reports.
Street crews have been patching potholes and cleaning up sand and debris that's been left from the winter. The signs were placed at the cemetery this morning stating the rules out there for cleaning all your grave sites, picking up old items that have been left, the dates, everything that's involved in that. The difference in last year and years past and going forward from this April will be no enclosures, landscaping, extra items outside of the direct area of your headstone. That's in place. Signs are in place and it will be published in the newspaper 3 times. So I'm sure some of us will have questions from people that'll need to be answered. Sewer department did have a sewer collapse over on 10th and Orleans in the alley. They was able to repair that. They did a good job on it. That took them about a day and a half. And so want to commend them for that.
Robert, have we heard anything on the prisoners as far as with COVID supposedly drying up that maybe we
They're
could
saying
get
there's
them
a
back?
possibility late this spring that we could see them back, but we've been given different deadlines throughout this whole time. So we do keep in contact with them and we're hopeful that at some point we'll get them back. The Parks and Bridge departments have been still working on equipment. They've been doing some work to their building down there that maintenance that needed done. Other than that, things are moving forward and we're waiting on better weather.
Robert, cemeteries, you said, is stuff going to be removed or?
Yes,
It's
in the
way
past,
more.
you know, last year was the first year that we kind of made the first step on this, and we asked people to remove items from their grave site, and then they could put things back. They can we still need all the old decorations and everything cleaned off of all the stones.
What about the stuff down in the grass, the decorative rocks and that stuff? That's going to be removed if they don't remove it?
We're asking anybody that has anything out there to come remove what you have, and it cannot go back. You can put decorations directly on the stone.
I wonder if they don't remove it.
If they don't move it, then we will remove it.
I'm just asking, so when they
Yes.
ask me.
Yes, we will have an area that we will store this for a period of time for people that do not come get their items, that they can come collect them, but I cannot promise that somebody won't take something that belongs to you. We don't want to remove your items. We want the people to come take their items. I know that this is a sore subject, but it's been long overdue. You see what we had tonight when we don't have strict rules.
Any other staff member? For my report, Tom's got one. Oh, you didn't speak fast enough.
I thought I mentioned the situation with ADM. I don't know, as many of you may have seen, we published a notice of violation with their wastewater plant and their pretreatment when it comes to us. It kind of came to a head. It'd been ongoing since July and kind of came to a head this week. they've been having some problems. And we're working with them, and they're really putting a lot of energy into getting things fixed in the short term and the long term. I had a conversation today, and we've got really good communication going, and we're working with them, and things are looking up because ADM, I think, can be a really good neighbor with what they give to the city and what the city can give to them. And things are going well. Just wanted to let y'all know.
Thank you, Tom.
Well, that kind of stole my thunder on the first part of my report, and that I was going to report on that as well. But we're also working with our consultant on notifying all industries to do a survey of their facilities to determine if there is direct or indirect discharge, and what permit, if any, is necessary. So legislative items at this stage of the session, new bills are not being introduced. The comprehensive tax reform bill passed both the House and Senate and does not include any changes to the local option sales tax. There's still a possibility that a committee bill could be drafted to fund I-Will with changes to the local option sales tax. The league continues to monitor any changes on this item. A bill establishing a statewide building code is still alive. Currently, cities can adopt their own codes, as we have, and make changes that are more or less stringent. Under the proposed bill, the state code could not be altered. This removes the abilities of cities to customize their codes to fit the needs of their communities. I expressed these concerns with Senator Reichman and Graber during last week's legislative forum. And as the mayor had noted, our next meeting is March the 17th, which is the third most holy of all holy days. And why it is not a national holiday, we don't know. But it is the day of the wearing of the green, and anybody who does not wear green on that day shall be severely punished. That's all I have.
Okay, item number 14 is new business. Do we have any new business?
Mrs. Mayor, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
I do. I just wanted to say that I noticed that Main Street Keokuk had put out information about their quarterly downtown cleanup happening in March 26th, starting at Estes Park at 8 a.m. We'll have another meeting before that will reiterate, but just to get the information out there as early as possible. If you're wanting to help clean up the city, especially down on Main Street, March 26th, starting at 8 a.m.
Anybody else? With that being said, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.